Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Stone with Toy Wizards, that's toy-wizards.com, and I am here today to discuss how I introduce toys and games to my son, my child, on the autism spectrum. This is a totally different video than the type I normally make for Toy Wizards. We usually do toy reviews and show off our collections, but I really wanted to share my experience with any parents with a child on the spectrum who you might be struggling to introduce games and toys and play to your child, and hopefully there's something in this video that might help you. I have to first make a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. I am not a behavioral therapist. I do not work with children on the autism spectrum professionally at all. I am not even a licensed toy expert. I am a toy collector who writes about toys, who has her fingers to the pulse of the toy industry, and at the end of the day, I am a mommy who wants my son on the spectrum to thrive and play and use his imagination and be excited by the games and fantastical magic that is part of childhood that can sometimes evade kids on the autism spectrum, as some of you guys out there who are parents to a child on the spectrum might know. So again, this is just, I am a mommy sharing my experience with you. If your child is now in the 2-3-year-old range and you recently got that diagnosis and things are looking really scary and hopeless, because I know I was there a few years back. Again, my son's 7.5 and things are better. I really hope that your state or your city or your county or your country or anywhere has resources, early intervention resources, for you to get the help that your child primarily needs, which will then trickle effect to helping you. It helps the household. There is a stigma when your child is on the spectrum that it may be all in your head, and it might be a bit of truth. It's somewhere in the middle there. But sometimes it feels like you can't admit that some days suck, and it's hard. And any parent, sometimes your days are hard. But when your child's on the spectrum, doesn't matter how deep, high functioning, low functioning, of course, the lower the functioning, the less they can communicate with you, which is very frustrating for that child, and it manifests in violence and explosions sometimes, and I feel for you. I really do. You have my complete sympathy. But it's hard on a lot of days. And in my house, our days revolve around behavior therapy and now distance learning and coping mechanisms and redirecting behaviors. And it's just a lot. If you see me glancing over, I have notes. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I'm not sure if this is going to be a multi-volumed series. I don't know if I'm going to break up this video or if it's just going to be one long ramble tangent. We'll see where it goes and how much time I have and how much I have to say and if anyone walks through my door. Because that's life right now, let's be honest. Okay, so the diagnosis. My son, Avery, was born on 12/12/12, and I did not plan that, which is super cool. Very easy pregnancy, easy birth, no issues. Everything was totally cool. Very affectionate, sweet baby from the start. Had some sleep issues because I didn't make enough milk, and I didn't know that. So I should have given him formula right away, but I spent 3 weeks not realizing that I didn't make enough milk because his output was sufficient. Typical baby stuff, right? But we got through it. Everything was okay. He was very great eye contact, always been very, very affectionate. And then his motor skills, like he walked early, he rolled over early. He was so smiley. Everything was great. And then somewhere around the 18-month mark, he just wasn't responding quite in the same way that his peers were. He showed no interest in climbing. He showed no interest in toys. He never pointed. And the few words he had kind of started to disappear. It went from like 20 words to 15 words to 10 words to 5 words. And his doctor's like, we need to figure this out now. And we went to speech therapists, who just were completely not helpful. I'm not even going to go into it. There was this one woman who was so mad that he wouldn't play with the toys. And I'm like, he's 18 months old and you're putting him in a high chair and putting toys in front of him and expecting him to like categorize. I just didn't understand. I took him to places that specialized just in play and words and speech, things like that, and it just scared him. I started seeing these patterns, which I recognize now I recognize now as protests against non-preferred activities, but when he was 2 years and a few weeks, there wasn't words for it. I wondered why he was always trying to run away from me, like at the park. I'd go to the park, and while other kids were playing on the equipment or playing make-believe, mine was just gone. Like he was up a mountain, he was up a hill, he never wanted to play with me. So our park trips were him running away, and I thought like, oh, he's taking a walk, he's creative. I'm like, no, he can't stay in one spot. That's, it's not all right. And then when I would get him back to near the playground, he would just kind of sit in a pile of dirt and just play near it. I remember one specific instance where all I wanted him to do was take the shovel and put the dirt or the sand in the bucket. Just scoop and dump, because it was just this intentional movement, and it was just smearing and sensory stuff. And that was really upsetting. There are kids on the spectrum I've seen at parties who will like lay their head on the ground and they just pick up a handful of sand or dirt and just watch it fall over and over again. Avery was never quite like that. Those very what are considered very obvious signs, toe walking, hand flapping, any sort of finger movement for sensory things, head whipping, wasn't really, those never really showed up. But it was just that lack of interest in other kids, that it wasn't even parallel play. And then, so we got him signed up with the regional center here in California, and he was eligible for some preschool days, which was nice. Unfortunately, the only ones on the list were like Montessori's that just weren't okay with kids with special needs, and he hadn't received his diagnosis yet, and they were just like, does he have any needs? And I said, not that I'm, nothing on paper. And they were like, all right. So they just ignored him, and that was hard. It was hard to pick him up and see your child ignored because because he just didn't at the time have the ability to participate. And the second that door opened, he would run off and onto his, how do I even put this? It was just continuous loop on loop, up one set of stairs, down the other set of stairs, running around in laps around the gym. It was just, he was getting energy out, which is good. Exercise is good for anybody, but it was non-productive play. He wasn't playing with anyone. So that was hard. And then finally, once he turned 3, in order to stay eligible for services, we had to get him go to the psychiatrist at the regional center, get an evaluation, and I just felt so sorry for this psychiatrist. She was tired, and my kid walked in there and he just exploded and screamed. He wouldn't do anything that was asked of him. Being in this room, non-preferred, was just explosive temper tantrum. And there was no surprise when she called me like a week or so later, and she was like, I'm diagnosing your son. And I said, I get it. I absolutely get it. So, from there came things like speech therapy and occupational therapy and consistent preschool, special day preschool, and then, which led into special day kindergarten. And these were all really good things for him. That consistency, that schedule. Children on the spectrum tend to thrive on a schedule. Whether it's just consistent things happening every day, or even if it's like a whiteboard with just the schedule written out, that predictability is very soothing for them. I don't want to say them, but please be compassionate if I say them, for children on the spectrum. it's called a spectrum because it's just a range of behaviors. It's a range of behaviors, and it's a range of patterns that tend to appear with with children with this diagnosis. It's by no means an end all. So what one child on the spectrum does or doesn't do isn't the same as what another child on the spectrum does and doesn't do. Sensory issues, stemming, things that kind of stimming, things that stimulate your body. Again, the head whipping, or certain textures feel good or bad. Whether or not you can eat composed food like a burrito, or if everything has to be separate. And that's just how some people are. But today, we are here to discuss toys, because the inability to play is something, or the difficulty playing is something that comes up often in regard to children on the spectrum. So, with my son, again, I'm a toy collector. I love toys. I'm a toy enthusiast. When Avery was a baby, I tried really hard to make the surroundings very soothing. I had far fewer collectibles on display. And when he was a baby, every morning I would sort of do different, and I don't know where I got this idea, it just sounded right. I did different stations of play so that even though his room was small, we could rotate in a circuit through the day in his room. And that didn't work, that didn't work to stimulate play. He had a couple of toys, balls, but it was just a lot of touching and grabbing and not a lot of productive play. So the same problem happened for getting him into pop culture. He couldn't sit through movies. I couldn't just pop on Disney and he just wouldn't watch different Disney movies and get attached to those characters, which are pop culture mainstays and staples. People ask me all the time, what do your kids think that you're a toy journalist? Do they want to play with all the toys? This, just recently, my son, I have a daughter who's 5, who's of average development, if not a little bit advanced. She's very verbal. But for a long time, no. Like, they didn't care. And they didn't understand. And so it was also really hard when Avery was around 3, 4 years old, where little boys are getting into little boy things. And people were like, does your son love Star Wars? And I'm like, no, he doesn't know it. Like, he won't watch any of that stuff. I can't put on a movie. He doesn't like anything. He doesn't like Paw Patrol. Like, I can't put on, the shows that your kids are watching on Nick Jr. and he won't watch them. He just taps out and walks away. And, these are, again, early preschool ages. What he did attach to first, finally, was Thomas and Friends. And I think it's because, looking back, kids on the spectrum, and I've written about this too, and I will post all of my articles about pop culture, toys, games, play that I've written. I'll put them in the description so you can go back and see if it helps you. But it's the big expressions. So there's a lot of screaming in Thomas. There's a lot of big expressions. There's a lot of Thomas flying off the tracks and yelling. And I think that, kids on the spectrum I've seen have will attach to just all kids like over-exaggerated goofy stuff, but it's even double from my experience with kids on the spectrum. So if anything is just big and loud and ridiculous, and my son was more into it. It attracted him more when it was loud and exaggerated, as opposed to a more gentle show where characters are kind of just talking. It just didn't get the attention. There was no urgency. There were no stakes. So some of the earliest toys, I have a box of them. He doesn't play with these anymore. He's outgrown these, but I still have them. These were cheap at Toys R Us when he was little. So, you remember these die-cast Thomas? These were a winner. He was excited for these, and we would just go to Toys R Us and just walk around often, just as something to do, to wear him out on days where it's like too hot to go to the park. And these were about $5 each, and that's a lot of dollars in here. So the thing I've found consistent between myself and other parents of children on the spectrum is when your child on the spectrum likes a toy, you buy every single freaking bit of it. You buy every effing chicken in the room, man. Like, you buy them all because you're so excited to see them attaching to a toy. You want them to play so badly that you'll go broke. You'll go broke buying all of those Thomases. All of them. And what did he do with them? Because he wouldn't play with them on the tracks? Well, in a little more typical ASD, autism spectrum disorder, in typical ASD format, he lined them up. There's a lot of lining up toys. Getting really close to them, just lining them up. It then evolved into these trains. It evolved into these trains. These, I took the batteries out. These are battery operated. So these were fun because they, you could drag your cart. Oh, there's hair in them, gross. And they move. So there was a lot of disaster play where you turn it on and it's going off the, oh no, oh it's gonna fall off the table, kaboom. So it was like these disaster plays, scenarios, just over and over again. Or Avery would just turn on these trains and they'd just be going across my house, and they get stuck under the entertainment center or stuck under the sofa, and they were loud. And then I hear something and I'm like, I'm hallucinating, what is that? And nobody, like, what, did you leave your trains on? And nobody's answering me because he didn't talk much at the time. So the die-cast evolved into these, which were not cheap. These were more in the $12 to $15 range. And I still, call me a sucker if you want. I don't care. It's fine. Call me whatever you want. Those, I spent a lot of money on those too. And then eventually he tapped out. He didn't want to play with them anymore. So that was that. I'm trying to think, I'm just thinking right now. I think what helped around here, when just the toys in and of themselves wasn't enough, it was when around 5 or so, Avery started getting into video games. And that was really good. That was really good. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm a kid from the 80s, and I had a Nintendo Entertainment System since I was 3, and I always just thought they were amazing for reflexes, for following a storyline, for understanding how to win and lose, to try again. So video games have never, my husband's a huge video game fan and collector, so video games in the house have never been a problem, not around here. So with Avery, playing video games was great on 2 levels. It was one, the hand-eye coordination, the muscle memory, just, memorization in general, and just introducing him to new characters. So of course, who's one of the heroes in this house? Mario. Got every Mario in the room. We got more upstairs. I just didn't want to bring them all down. Oh, I might even have more Marios, literally. Back here. Link, Legend of Zelda, is my son's hero. And what's awesome is that he talks to Link when he plays the games. So it's not that image that a lot of people might have of a kid playing video games like, unresponsive. My son actually talks to the games, and that's helped him verbally because, of course, he had, like I mentioned earlier, he had a speech delay, and he had a speech regression, which was really scary. As his interest in games continued on, it then evolved into, at school, board games. So at school they played a lot of Candyland, And I actually did not play Candyland as a kid. So he asked me to get him Candyland. I got him Candyland, and we played Candyland. We played Candyland to the point where I started making up stories about the characters on the board. I'm not even kidding you. That's over on poplurker.com. That's my personal website. We'll leave that as it is. It's a fan theory. Go look at it. But after I expired on Candyland, I started looking up, okay, so he likes the fantastical elements, he likes the candy, he likes the gingerbread, he likes the sort of fairy tale elements of it. What can I find next? So I did a little search on Amazon, and I discovered, and I have a whole article about kids on the spectrum and board games, and I'll link that as well. I discovered Enchanted Forest. It's about a $20 game, and it's a hide and find. You have a token, that's your object that you have to find, and then there's plastic trees, and under the plastic trees is the corresponding token. So you shuffle the trees, put them somewhere, put the card of the item you have to find, and then you bounce around the board, and when you get to the tree, the different tree spots, you can see if you found a match. And if you found the match, then you have to go to the castle, and then you win. So it's super cute. And that caught his attention for a long time. Almost obsessively. Because hyperfixation, it's a real thing. At school, they also, public schools brought to you by Pete the Cat and Scholastic. So I had found Pete the Cat, the Missing Cupcakes game. This is super cute. It's for ages 3+. Again, my son is 7. But there's a charades element in here. Acting out, make believe, using your body to convey and communicate an idea. And I was legitimately concerned that my son wouldn't understand. Very, very fortunately, he delighted me and surprised me and totally caught on to it and thrived in that role. He was really excited to show me, his charades. And I really liked that. So, there are ways, there's things you can do as a parent of a child on the spectrum. You're just going to have to do them differently. And then not everything you try is going to be right. Like, I probably spent like $300 on Thomas Trains. Why? Because I just wanted to see him play, I bought a lot of Play-Doh. One of the earlier games we played when I'm sorry, I'm jumping timelines all over the place. Kind of just talking as I think of things, but, I'm trying to be, like, authentic here. One of the early games we played was I would take, like, a empty plastic egg, like an Easter egg, and I'd put something inside of it, and I'd cover that whole thing with Play-Doh, so you'd have to peel off the Play-Doh, a little egg, and you open it and there's a thing. You can also do a similar game removing the plastic Easter egg, and you can just put a thing in Play-Doh, and you just open the Play-Doh and try to find the prize. That's a very easy early game that's, muscle memory and motor skills, and it's a good way to just get your kid, if you can get a kid on the spectrum, most kids, but for me, speaking for myself, remember, I'm going to keep saying that. Everything in here is my experience, and if some of it mirrors your experience or helps you, like a mitzvah has been performed. But if this, if these aren't generalizations, that's all I'm trying to say. So, please, if it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. But, yeah, kids just like the opening things and the muscle memory. And Avery used to watch a lot of YouTube video. I've taken away YouTube. YouTube was a big problem for him. Just watching things that just weren't stimulating him in a healthy way. But he watched a lot of surprise egg videos where people were just unwrapping Play-Doh eggs and there was things inside. And I was like, well, if you're gonna watch it, if you're gonna watch it happening, why don't you, get on the field and do it yourself? So we did a lot of that. Activities that did not work and still are a little funny around here are painting. It's getting better. At 7.5 years old, we can have a painting activity, but it's still highly supervised and a little chaotic. I know all kids like messes. I'm not uptight. I wrote an article about how slime toys are horrible. And I got a lot of comments of people, saying, Mama, I think you're just, obsessive and don't like messes. That's fine. Have at me. That's not it. I don't mind a mess in an activity, but when the activity is the mess, that's not productive. That's a non-productive activity for my son. So, for example, if we're playing kinetic sand and sand gets on the table or on the floor, oops, we were building our mountain and some sand happened. We were on our adventure, we're making up our story, and oops, sand happened. Okay. But when the game is all over my floor, no. Just so you can feel that sensory twiddling between your fingers. No, that doesn't help. That doesn't help him. That didn't help him. When painting was not, oops, he knocked over the water, or, oh, you got some paint on the table. No, when the game is, here's paint, dump, spread, buy. And now there's paint everywhere, hands, living room. That's not productive. That's chaos. And what helps children on the spectrum, or my son, thrive is structure and rules and an objective to the game. And, there are other ways to do it. At school, they did like shaving cream activities where, you have a big bowl of shaving cream and there's like things in there. Feeling that squishy, the different sensations. Yes, that's an activity. But imagine if a teacher is trying to conduct this activity and it's just a race against kids who want to smear it everywhere. Obviously that activity isn't going to help. So those are just things to look out for when looking at different games, activities, methods of play. Is your kid, playing outside in the hose because they like to feel the water all over them? Or are they standing there spraying the ground, wasting your water because they're stimming out on something? It's just something to look out for. Imaginary play. Let's talk about that a little bit before we wrap up. Imaginary play. So I remember going to the park with Avery, and there was a bunch of boys somewhere in the 6-year-old range, and they all have swords, and they're all playing pirates or, Star Wars or something like that, and they're all good guys against bad guys, cowboys and Indians, heroes and villains, like just that excitement of childhood. And I just remembered my kid having just no interest in that kind of stuff. And it's getting better. Again, him being a fan of Link. Link is a hero. Link is an adventurer. Link is so brave and so strong. And Link casts spells and has magic and is curious. And so that helps. So, Avery has walked around with like the Breath of the Wild shield on his back. He's had his sword in his little, sheath. And he's played and he's posed and it's great. It doesn't last very long. But what I was saying before, I think I interrupted myself, that a lot of kids on the spectrum, the activities are very short. That's what I was trying to say before, and I interrupted myself with another disclaimer. I'm being real careful here. I don't know. You never know who's watching, but yeah, with any kid, activity focus is going to be short. But with kids on the spectrum, according to my son's therapists, if you can get 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes out of any activity, that's really, really, really good. That is really good. So if you can focus on just a board game for 10 minutes, you're good. If you can focus on coloring or painting productively for 10 minutes, you're good. And of course, the stakes get higher as they get older and you expect more from them. Therapy has been incredible for my son. He has ABA therapy 5 days a week in the home, 2 hours at a time. And it's been really humbling for me. Of course, as his mom, I have to learn this along with him, but I want to learn this along with him because I realized I didn't have the coping skills to understand his needs. My son will weaponize everything. So if it's a non-preferred answer, he screams, he throws, he has tantrums, and it's as simple as use your words, or, hey, you don't have to do that right now. Let's redirect and do something else, which we do. And having books that he likes, which he's not reading a lot right now. In spite of his high reading level for his age and his diagnosis, I'm really proud of him. We're not reading a lot right now. Same with the board games. We played a ton when, quarantine started, and he sort of tapped out. Right now, he's really enjoying Animal Crossing New Horizons, so I like that it's a slow burn. He's building his island, but it's a lot of, stimming out on KK's music. So he unlocks and buys all these songs in it, and he just kind of like goes through them. You can compare it to a kid flipping channels back in the day, just really quick. Like, they're not absorbing anything. It's just like little peaks and stuff of music. But that's kind of where we are today. I'm grateful. At the end of the day, I am very grateful for where we are. My son at 7.5 is very curious. He likes to know things. He asks a lot of questions. He's friendly. He asks to talk to people he knows. He asks he asks for my grandmother. He asks to talk to my dad. He asks to go see his baby cousin. He asks how my friends are, how my business partner is doing. He asks about his dad's friends and business partners. So I really enjoy that. I really like the questions. He also asks a lot of repetitive questions like, do I have summer school on Saturday? Is my therapist coming on Saturday? No? Is it my day off? Is my day off with mommy? Just things over and over and over and over again, which is not uncommon for those questions to come up again and again and again. But this is why the parent, needs to have that arsenal of tricks and tools and entertainment that works so you can redirect it. I recently got my son a tablet. We try to limit tablet time, but he's connected to some of the games on it, mostly Peppa Pig games and Miraculous Ladybug. He likes Miraculous Ladybug and Peppa Pig a lot right now, which sounds good. I'm down. It's good for me. I'm all into it. So, again, that's kind of where we are. I've said it twice now, but I'll say it again because that's the kind of person I am. I will link all the articles I've written about play and pop culture and autism, and hopefully they'll help you. Some different types of games that might help you. The best thing I can say too is if you have a child on the spectrum who is young, who doesn't connect with peers, doesn't say a lot, has trouble playing, it'll get better. It will. Be present. Don't drive yourself crazy. It'll be okay. Your version of okay is different from my version of okay, but we're all strong and resilient, and you're going to be okay, and your child's going to be okay, and they're healthy, and they will very likely have productive relationships and jobs and drive. And if they can't, because that's what part of the spectrum that they're on, there's resources, and you will get help, and you can get help. And if your kid doesn't want to play with your Masters of the Universe or G.I. Joes or any of the stuff that you revere as a toy collector, that's okay. That's okay. It's less of your shelves they're going to destroy. Take them to the toy aisle at Walmart, at Target. Just take it slow. Just let them walk around. And if it results in a tantrum, stick to your guns. If you throw a tantrum and you can't have something, pull them out of there. Try again next week. It doesn't matter. Let them explore. It's like when your kid's on the spectrum, you have to be rigid and relaxed at the same time. There's lots of gray areas, but it's just about being calm and letting people help you, and just knowing that sometimes you can't just go to that store because you're going to have a freak out, and you can't just do this because there's going to be a freak out. But the freakouts happen less and less and less as they get older, and their natural curiosity will grow, and they want to, So it's tough, but hang in there. And you keep collecting your toys, and they'll collect their toys, and try to implement make-believe, try to get their attention, see if they'll feed lines to their action figures and their dolls. Ask them a lot of questions. What color should this be? Where are they going? What are they going to eat when we take them for a picnic? Should we go outside with our toys? And just change scenery and just be present. And I know you're exhausted, and I know you just want to sit on the couch and watch, Avatar on Netflix again, and do nothing, because parenting is really hard. It is. I'm not being condescending. So just hang in there. Just hang in there. Use your resources around you, if that's professional resources. If your parents are alive and can help you with your kids, that's amazing. If you have their grandparents present who will help, or aunts or uncles, or really good friends, let people help you. Take a nap. And just keep trying, like I said, just think outside the box. Board games, toys, big expressions, imaginary play, and you're going to find your way. So again, I'm Loryn Stone with Toy Wizards. That's toy-wizards.com. Visit our site for daily toy news, reviews, articles, collection pieces, editorials, everything toy related. For more parenting stuff, you can check out my website, Pop Lurker. It's not always family friendly, but we get by. And again, I really hope that there was something in here that helped you. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or if there's anything you think I can do to help. I want to help you. It's not easy, and it takes a village and a toy store, right? All right, you guys, be good. I'll see you soon. Bye.